All right, today I'm out working on the Jeep. I'm starting to make some links to make this into a 1-ton project. You see we've got my Ford Dana 60 right there. We've got our 14 bolt in behind there. But I just wanted to give y'all a run through before I completely change this thing. I'd said at the very beginning that I wanted to show y'all what it took to get a trail ready rig on a low budget, and so I just wanted to walk through everything that I've done, the cost and labor associated with it. It's going to be a lot more labor than cost, but as y'all know, I'm in college, and so money's tight, and I still wanted to go rock crawling with my friends. So this is the rig I've ended up with so far, and it's been an absolute blast. I've learned a ton, and I'm going to walk y'all through the steps I did take, and then if I was going to do it again, what I would do differently. So let's jump right into it and walk through my ZJ build. Now it looks a little bit on the rough side right now, but it's in the middle of a teardown, so don't beat me up too mad about it. But we're going to start from the back and work our way forward. All right, now it looks messed up now, but the first thing I did was replace this back hatch and this side door because both of them had broken glass, which you can see I've done again. If I was to do this again, remove the windshield wiper because it would have been fine. Like all it did, the tree pushed in right here. You can see the dent, but it jammed this into the windshield and that's why it broke. The actual line is pretty close to straight. It's pushed up a little bit, but I think that I think that this back glass would have held if I didn't have this. If not, I mean, you're not going to use this anyway, so remove this. That's one bolt, get it out of there. Then you can see the side door. It's a little scraped up. This one's a little bit worse. This is what Disney does to you. Going up waterfall is the only thing that's hit this side at all, and it's really hard on it. Yeah! Go, go, go! Woo! What I'm in the process of doing is cutting out these side little side skirts. I'll show you over here. I have a video about how I cut these out, and the plan is to get some 1/4 inch 2x4 or 2x6 steel and make a rock slider really cheap, and I'm going to try to do something with tubing to make it look better, but overall it's just going to be a really cheap siding thing. Wished I'd done that sooner over there, but if you're going to go to Oklahoma, leave at least the factory rocker panel there because over here is not messed up at all. And if I had cut out the other side, my doors would be completely messed up. So do what I did there. Now, along with the cutting, I didn't do a full comp cut, but I did take out all of this right here. I cut out a little bit of this. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit more. It's gonna have more removed when I go to bigger tires. But I can't actually open this door because it's crushed in. But I just cut this straight across, even with the door. It did stick out to here, and it was cutting up the front of my old tires, and then it was digging into this when I would get off camber at all. So you're going to want to cut that out in some way. If you're going to run, I'm running a 35-inch tire. It's hit with both styles of 35-inch tire that I've run. But I love the comp cut look, and if you want to put a price on it, I got just one of these actual steel discs, and one of them got me through that whole side, front and rear comp cut. And I think they cost like $16 at Lowe's. So if you want to put a price on that, that's going to be how much I have into that project. Now coming around here, what I've also done you can see this is a lot more spaced out, but it still has a little bit of lip to it, which I love because it makes it not just the typical Sawzall cutout style. It actually folds back into itself a little bit. I could clean this up if I wanted to, but I truly don't have to. What's happened is this tire still hits into that, and so it's pulled some of the material back out. But that's a super basic project, and it, I think, really transformed the look of the Jeep. All right, now looking from the front here, I currently don't have headlights in. They're in a box over there. But I did throw in some LED lights. I love the company that I went with. They are Oxydo. I'll have a link down in the bio. But I also cut out this bumper into a stubby bumper. Originally, the factory bumpers are gonna stick out to here. Took a Sawzall, cut it, and really cleaned up this area. This I just now went and did. I didn't originally cut this as high as it is, but I cut this, and if you want to put a price on that, maybe $5–10 in Sawzall blades. Then the exact same thing is going to be over that way body wise. Now here's where I may get just a little bit of hate, because I did go with a light bar before I went with true lockers, but the way we ride, the headlights that I got factory were terrible. At that point, I didn't know if I wanted to go with LED headlights. If I was to do it again, I would just go straight to LED pods in the corners as well, or something along that lines. But I do have a 40-inch light bar that I've now just hard mounted to into the hood itself. So it goes up and down with it. Doesn't block any of my line of sight. It does a really good job at projecting out, and this is just a $75 kit on Amazon. So that's another $75 into the bill. Now, when I said I went light bar before I went locker, I did, but the same day that I got the light bar on, we welded the rear end of this Jeep. It is a Dana 44 aluminum, which is an aluminum center cast housing, and I've had no issues with it. People say that they break if you slam them on a rock, and I'm sure that's true, but I have beat this thing and I've had no issues. So honestly, like, I haven't broken an axle shaft. I've broken absolutely nothing out of that rear end, and so I truly love that 44A, which is, you don't hear that very often, but I've had a lot of good luck with it. In the front, I'm still running a factory low pinion Dana 30. I was gonna swap to a high pinion Dana 30, but I just never got around to it. Never had a reason. But I'd literally taken it out of the XJ and was sitting on the front of my trailer, and we were gonna pop it in. But it is a just Dana 30. And then we have the poor man's RCVs. I'd also pulled the shafts out of the XJ because U-joints are a little bit stronger. Now, if I was gonna do the front end again, I would jump straight into this Dana 35. I would go with the actual U-joint style, which I'll show you. So this is the U-joint style of Dana 30 front axle. I would go immediately to that instead of going with these. I got free out of another ZJ because I'd broken both fronts. Now, the other thing I did up front, I have an upgraded steering rack. This is a CURRIE 1-ton link. I got this on Facebook Marketplace for $150. So would absolutely do that again. I just threw away my old tie rods, but they were bent. Like, they were probably this shape. They were a good C shape, and that was out from Disney. And I have been just as hard, if not harder, on these, and have had no issue. Love these, would absolutely run them again. They're about $650 if you buy them new, but this was out of a TJ, I believe, that they just weren't gonna run anymore. And so 150 bucks is what I had in that. Now, the first trip, I went out with only a welded rear differential. Hated it. Did not do well. Still pushed the front end around. Did all the typical welded differential things. I drove it on the street a few times, and it wasn't terrible. Held up. But welding the front is a game changer off-road. Don't do this unless you have a dedicated off-road rig that you're trailering everywhere, but it made a world of difference. Now, while we're on the topic of powertrain, I have to run through the transfer cases that I've been through. Now, when I first bought the Jeep, it had a 249 transfer case, which had been smashed in from the rear. That showed me that the drive shaft was too long, and so we just took it, cut out a section, re-welded it. It's been awesome, have not had an issue with the rear since. Then, first trip out, I hopped up on a ledge, and as soon as the front was able to drop, it had the factory style ZJ front drive shaft, but a custom length. Length was wrong, and it pulled my front drive shaft out of my transfer case and then whipped it around and broke the second transfer case, which was a 242. So I've now been through 2 transfer cases because it broke the housing. You can't really fix the housing, so you have to get a new one. So I went with another 242, which had been rebuilt front to rear. The dude had a bunch of ZJs and ran the 242, said he loved it. Swapped that in. Next trip, broke the rear output shaft. Not even on a hard hill. So the 242 has a weaker output shaft at the spider gear, which is where the transmission, it's where the speedometer comes in, basically. So where the speed sensor goes down in, that's a thinner part of material, and that's where it broke. That's up at my friend's house, or I'd show you exactly what happened. But so broke another 242 transfer case. Ended up taking the internals of one, putting it in another, so I didn't have to buy another 242. And then that one is still in working condition. It's at my friend's house. So that 242 never blew up on me. But if I was going to do it again, I currently have a 231 in, and it's been flawless. I have a spare output shaft because even though the 231 is an upgraded output shaft compared to the 242, I still wanted a spare, got the spare for free. So I'm going to have to calculate up what I've actually spent on transfer cases. And again, if I was going to do it again, I'd go straight to that 231. I don't care what you have to do. Get a 231 that fits, just already has the right output shaft, everything, and just run that immediately. Drop your $300. Fix that, because that's an issue with these. Now, inside, I'll give you a little tour around, but I've done nothing. I dropped these seats in. Those were $25 at Walmart. They at least cover up. It was leather seats, but they're kind of old, falling apart, kind of pointy. That's it. Then I worked on rewiring the stereo, because the stereo from whoever had this before me was completely messed up. So I spent probably $40 in speaker wire, and had an old head unit laying around. It's actually over here. Then I'll eventually add subwoofers and stuff like that, so that'll be a little bit more, but that's going to be later down in the process. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about are these tires. So that's a weird situation. So I got that XJ with these tires and a set of 39.5 IROCs. Sold the IROCs, parted out the Jeep, and I've completely made my money back from just selling the parts of the Jeep. And so technically I got these boggers free, but if you were going to buy them, they're going for around $1,800 to $2,000 on Facebook right now in this condition. You might be able to get them a little bit cheaper, but they're kind of an expensive. They're an expensive tire just because they're not super common and all the people want to run them. So I'm not going to include it in my cost because personally it didn't cost me anything. But I mean, I'll throw just kind of the full list of what I've done, and then the few things I would change. Take the windshield wiper off. I would honestly cut this a little bit higher. I would like to have better rear shocks because the suspension lift that this came with, they still have, I believe, the factory rear shocks. So I'd like to have more droop in the rear. And then I would jump straight into the 231 transfer case and either a just true high pinion Dana 30 front, or at least just the CV style axles, or the not CV style, the U-joint style axles. But other than that, it's been a fairly reliable rig. I mean, I've had to throw batteries at it because it has some sort of parasitic draw. So I guess you can throw in $100 for a battery if you want to. But the battery that it originally came with worked. It just killed it because it sat in my garage, so that was my own fault. But other than that, that's all I have into this rig. And so before I jump it on 1 tons, I just wanted to give an update to show y'all what it takes for you to get on the trail with a rig like this.